So, we're going to draw a diagram here, okay? So this circle is the general public. And this circle is academics, okay? Nope. Public. Let's make that bigger. God, I missed my computer. There we go. Okay, that's the public. And these are academics, okay? We'll just call this is the academy. Okay. Now, in the middle, we have popularizers. All right. That would be me. That would be people like Andrewism. That would be people like Unsolicited Advice. That would be people like Angela Collier. That would be people like Morbid Zoo, and so on. These are people, sometimes they're both. Sometimes they're both academics and they're popularizers. But the key point here is that popularizers engage with these people, and academics generally engage with other academics, because they aren't working primarily on stuff that these people can digest. They're working primarily on solving problems, on identifying problems, on developing new tools, on increasing our understanding of things. Now, all of these things are really important for the public to have access to because, well, a number of things. First of all, the public directly engages in politics, right? The public is effective in voting, it is effective in protesting, and so on. These people by themselves are not. So the public engages in activities that directly impinge on how this stuff gets done and funded, and how this stuff is allowed to be conducted. However politics goes determines how whatever is allowed to be studied in academics or is able to be funded in academics, and in terms of what is allowed to be said or heard or accepted in popular media. And so we have a bit of a pickle here. These people do not communicate with the public or with politics directly except through popular means, because these people do not communicate primarily with the public, they communicate with each other. They are deep in the weeds on complicated problems that have a high cultural and material buy-in. So they rely on people operating in this space to translate their material in ways that make the relationship between the public and politics useful, positively disposed towards better academic work and better popularization of that academic work. But as a consequence of politics also interfacing with popularizers, both affecting what is allowed to be said, and also, by the way, affecting the platforms that popularizers depend on and how those will monitor those popularizers and so on. Because it's not always directly by a government. Sometimes it's by, for example, platforms like YouTube or Facebook, which, for instance, right now, we were just talking about the NEET scandal in India. There have been Facebook posts fundraising for students who have been arrested and beaten by the police, and these posts have been taken down by Facebook, which is colluding with the Modi government to censor protests. As a consequence, popularizers have perverse incentives to do things that will privilege this relationship instead of this relationship. And so, sometimes popularizers will do a bad job of interfacing with the public because the way in which they're doing that job improves their own fortunes in terms of their success and their viability as popularizers. And sometimes it does so in a way that makes it so that people from over here, they never make it to contributing to over here, and or they actually become obstacles to academic work being done. And so an example of a popularizer doing a bad job will be a popularizer who, in order to facilitate their success in the algorithm, say, starts producing material on the quick that isn't actually appropriately representing the work of the people over here. Which becomes a problem, because people over here then will be under a misperception that they are getting information from over here, and they are understanding what the academic establishments are producing and doing. But they're not, though. And then they will make judgments, both to either get involved in academics or to undermine academics, on the basis of their misunderstanding of this. In fact, they may even mistake this for this, meaning that these people who are being misrepresented by popularizers are completely silenced. So one of the reasons why I had a very big issue with Alec Gunter is not just because he was doing a bad job of explaining, for example, like the philosophy of trans issues, but because by dint of the way he was trying to insert himself as a popularizer of these things, as a debater for these things, he was also being a representative for people who are doing actual serious work in the academy. And by so doing, poisoning people against being able to actually understand what people in the academy are actually saying. And that's a really big problem, because it basically means that society collectively is losing the ability to benefit from what's happening in the academy, and people are losing the ability to benefit from working in the academy, which means that more and more people, because academics are not saints, are going to start engaging in misinformation and manipulative tactics in order to benefit the most from this, from politics, by which I mean as a shorthand, essentially just the machinery of the public as a whole, not just elections, but also just like being able to benefit from a particular relationship with the community, even if it means contributing to further poisoning the ability of the public to actually engage positively with intellectual material and intellectual problems and academic pursuits and whatnot, and academic problems. And this is where you have academics who will become shills for the right wing, for example. This is one of the reasons why I take this stuff very seriously, and I have a lot of contempt for people who defend people who popularize academic work badly. This is not a victimless crime. It is not harmless. It is not just YouTube. They are stealing your society's ability to learn from its mistakes, to learn what the problems are, to learn what the state of the art is, and to learn how to actually step into contributing to this stuff if they have a passion for solving problems themselves. I think it's one of the most disgusting things a person can do with their brain, is to misrepresent stuff on the cheap, because it's to misrepresent stuff done by people who have essentially given their lives over to trying to contribute to public understanding and teaching, so that you don't have to labor in your appropriate place, which is not over here. These bad popularizers of this academic material are a scourge. They are actually doing real harm collectively. And it's not 500 years ago where, for example, the consequences for the conditions of life on this planet are now, in the very short term, at stake by people not being able to engage with the problem seriously. No, Gengros, nobody else is lagging. I don't think the issue of popularization / vulgarizations can be separated from the attention economy and the push towards the most consumable content. I'm not separating it. That's sorry, just to be clear. When I was talking about platforms, that's what I was talking about. That doesn't just include the hosting sites. That also includes the I should put a title here, actually, just to clarify it. There we go. platforms. Okay, there we go. Listen, I didn't plan out this diagram, all right? We're doing it live. We actually need to be able to educate the public so that they can vote for parties and for policies that will help not just save the world, because we can't do that anymore, but to actually make it so that we are not in a political and climate catastrophe in the next several decades. If you think the rising temperatures are not going to, in the Middle East and in Asia are not going to be a problem for us here, you are very mistaken. And they're also rising here too, by the way. There is the additional factor that popularizers are also largely people who have failed out of academia, or if they haven't failed out of academia, they aren't very good, as in they don't have a reason mechanically to invest in doing academics well. Which is why a lot of these popularizers are also really, really bad academics. That's your Michael Burns and whatnot. Michael Burns is a weird one because his dissertation is terrible, and he apparently defended it against 2 people, which is very unusual. Typically, you have a panel of I want to say 5 minimum, and none of the people that he defended his dissertation in front of were trained in the subject matter. So I don't know what's going on there, but it's weird. It's very weird. These people might be profiting off of the problem, but they aren't really the cause or the primary drivers. Oh, in terms of misrepresenting academic work, they absolutely are, 100%. Absolutely. No, they are the primary drivers. They didn't create the financial incentive to do this, but they are the ones who are jumping on it at the expense of everybody else. That is a cat, yeah. Isn't that ContraPoints or Philosophy Tube's origin story? Yep. I mean, Philosophy Tube is one of the most shameless ones. But it's very typical for these people to go hey, join my Patreon to fund original research, which I wouldn't have an issue with if they actually did original research, right? I like Morbid Zoo. She actually does research. She reads stuff and she tries to think about things, and she's upfront about what she does. I like Angela Collier for the same reason. I like Brooks for the same reason. Philosophy Tube doesn't read anything. But she will have the gall, without, by the way, having the even the credentialed ability to teach philosophy. She will have the gall to say that her platform is giving away a philosophy degree for free, and then she will paywall her material on Nebula, which is hilarious. It's hilarious. ContraPoints dropped out during your master's, I think. I don't care. There's an additional factor here too, which is frequently these people will use their position in academia to bolster their credentials, so that people who don't understand what that means trust them. You do not need a degree to be a good popularizer of philosophy or science. You need to care about what you're doing and do your due diligence to the best of your ability to make sure that what you are saying is both correct and not misleading. And here's the thing. You can explain this to people and they will still defend it. And this is where I come to my initial statement, which is one of the underlying problems here is that America and the UK are producing a massive surplus of extremely bad people. Not just cynical people, not just people who are accepting of duplicitous behavior. I mean bad in a grosser sense. Bad in a consuming a Playboy magazine in public next to a preschool kind of way. That kind of spiritual rot. And it's sort of what Brooks is talking about here. My new favorite comment on the Philosophy Tube video is that she might be wrong, but at least she is entertaining. The people who defend this kind of thing are a problem. And they are not just innocent audience members. This is not the age of cable television where somebody gives misinformation on the TV and somebody listens to it and is misdirected and makes some poor decisions in life as a result, and it's sad. These are content creators. The audience that defends this, they are content creators. The audience that shares this are content creators. Comments are content. Comments are content. If you go into a video and you say, this is great, you are making a public message that other people will read, and on that basis, they will judge what they are reading or listening to as true or valuable or not, or reliable or not. You are also bullying and or drowning out people who point out problems with this. Why Canada and the UK specifically? Because generally this is an Anglo thing. There is a problem with the falsification of philosophical content in India, in China, etc., but the tonality is a little bit different. In general, its place in social media is different. Which country in particular does not produce a large number of bad people? I don't know if anyone counts. Maybe this is everybody, but the thing of it is, though, I'm sure every culture has its gatekeeping phenomenon. It's not gatekeeping. This is not gatekeeping, Bob. The issue isn't gatekeeping. The issue is that people are self-reflexively defending bad things. We've come to a point where people are reflexively and reflectively defending bad things. They are making the statement, hey, I agree this person is a fraud, but they're entertaining, so I'm okay with it. Actually, this is something that sort of defines online left content as well lately. One of the things that has sort of happened over the last couple of years is online left platforms, especially the very large ones, have become essentially a laundering device for war criminals and sex abusers and other things. Vosh has underage drawings of underage material. I need to be careful how I phrase this. On his computer, which he showed to millions of people, but he's entertaining. Destiny is in court currently for sending explicit material that he took, sometimes without consent. He certainly sent without consent to a minor who he tried to fly out to his place. But he's entertaining. A whole bunch of how about Graham Plattner? Graham Plattner is a protester of the Iraq War who then went there for fun, which is different from someone who joins Iraq because they bought the propaganda. This is someone who went for the adventure after acknowledging that the propaganda didn't work on them. What has happened is online communities are being trained to be okay with the people they crowd around and support being criminals, liars, murderers, and rapists. This is very bad, because the result will be is that we will now start getting really, really comfortable with people like that in positions of power, which means we will start to get more comfortable with people like that, period, as those become acceptable traits for people with power, ergo people with public respect. We are in a lot of trouble. And to be honest with you, I think that the first threat right now is actually not on the political right, because there's something a lot more insidious going on. One of those people not in positions of power and respect, it's not about them not ever being in positions of power and respect before, Brooks. The difference is we didn't know about it in that way. We denied it when it was known, and or we were ignorant of it. We didn't know about it and then go, well, we need them anyways. We didn't go, oh, we know. The Young Turks, I think, was even immediately going after the people who were, the woman who was making the claim of sexual assault by Graham Plattner. if memory serves. People immediately went to doing apologia. We need to actually be really careful with our language here. This is new. This is new. Pay close attention to what I'm saying. What is new is not that people in power are bad. What is new is that we didn't have positions of power and respect. They didn't have positions of power and respect, irrespective of whether or not we knew about them. For example, being or did we lose the connection? What? Who's saying F? What's going on? No, we're still here. We're back. We never left. We're fine. Weird. It lagged? Oh, weird. It died for 10 seconds? Oh, it's fine. What was the new thing? The new thing is that we didn't collectively say we're actually okay with these people being like that. Because, we got to win the election. We didn't do that. That's new. And that has consequences, and that should not be underestimated. Because it's not just that, oh, we're in a tight spot. And, we had to make hard decisions in a tight spot. It's that move changes us. That move changes us. That shifts some important ratchets down a few notches. Aside from the obvious don't support liars, grifters, and rapists, how can we avoid being part of the problem? I mean, that's a start. You hear somebody's a liar, a grifter, or a rapist, that's the time to be quiet. Condemn them or be quiet. That's when you don't be a part of the problem. That's all. The reason why I'm saying these people are bad is because they are voluntarily being a part of the problem. They are adding to the defense of these people. Like, that needs to be like... There needs to be a culture of shame around these things. Otherwise, they won't just be allowed to fly. They will proliferate more. There will be more of that. What Graham Plattner proved is that you can be the most obvious liar, and if you can catch people in enough of a propaganda bind, they will defend you. All four of these groups exist in specifically constructed institutions, and these structures are the issue. That didn't say anything more. I'm sorry. What do you think? What do you think institutions are constructed out of? What do you think they're made out of? Human habit and money. Guess what does the human habit, and guess what moves the money? These guys. All of it. Which is why that's where most of the nodes are. What are you talking about? CJP protests in India like an hour ago. A little late. I'm skeptical how much this matters within the online sphere. Tremendously. You cannot positively impact elections in a meaningful or reliable way online, even with the largest political platform that's available online. It just doesn't work that way. But you can massively impact large amounts of people who will then go out of their way to block people from thinking about certain things in certain ways, or make effective barriers for people to be open-minded to certain propositions, or to be critical of certain people. You can drown out and demoralize people who, for example, have to use the internet in order to point out problems with political actors, like Graham Plattner, for example. You can bully people who point out problems with people on social media who are attempting to gain influence in democratic politics, for example, and who are engaged in criminal behavior like Destiny. Given that the selection process pre-exists any public determinations, how are we to affect this? I don't think you've been paying attention to what I've been saying, Brooks. The issue is not the selection process. The issue is, are you going to collude with it? Are you going to normalize colluding with it? And if you are, to a discrete purpose, when do those discrete purposes end? And one of the disagreements we're having about this consistently is that there is no point at which this lesser evil doesn't turn into a greater evil. And there is no, like, the problems are interminable and merely increase. But we beat Trump. Trump's going to die. He's an old man. He's not going to be around forever. All these people are going to go away in the next 15 years, tops. And there will be new ones. And there may be new ones that we supported who end up being very similar as a result. And maybe, because we changed ourselves in the process of supporting those people, we, as we are now, no longer exist to even push back on that. So that in a few decades, it's all some type of MAGA thing. Like, maybe you haven't been paying attention, but the entire Democratic establishment has been specifically trying to court the right. Even Mamdani. His entire, he was actually rather clever. He made that big post calling Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal. But within that video, what he said was, oh yeah, so we're not going to be doing what I said I was going to do in 2024 and arresting Benjamin Netanyahu, by the way, somebody else's fault. This is an elaborate way of walking back from a previous position so we can have a more stable situation, right? And that's like the most justified case, because he's a mayor. He's supposed to be focusing on his city. And he also can't arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, that is true. But he lied to you that he would try. To be fair, I don't think the average person is cool with antisocial behavior like assaults and such. They just feel powerless and detached enough to do nothing. Yeah, that needs to stop. They need to stop feeling powerless and detached enough to do nothing, because that makes it so. And sometimes the proliferation of the idea that that is not so is what makes it not so. So we need to do organizing and outreach. There needs to be a general move that actually celebrates standards and trying. Bourgeois morality? Not sure what you're referring to. What is bourgeois morality? And you actually do spread that through conversation and through not I mean as a start, not celebrating people or promoting people who engage in misrepresentation of important material. What about Adorno? Okay, there's a conversation there I don't understand. But he said bougie morality as if it's a matter, class matter to not support people who lie and do unspeakable crimes. I mean, if you collude with the upper classes for the sake of the upper classes, I have some bad news for you. You ain't working on behalf of the lower classes. And to bring it back to the CJP thing and these students who were cheated out of their degrees, like, this is a problem. This is a problem that needs to be solved. This isn't a game you should be playing. You play the game, it doesn't fix. At a certain point, it just starts to slowly fall apart. Oh, I wasn't criticizing you, Super Beast. I was just responding to the thing you were describing. This is a problem. Like, one of the saddest things about those students who killed themselves when they realized that the exam was a cheat, or maybe they didn't realize it was a cheat, maybe they just failed out, is that there was a problem that these people would have been would have found meaning fighting to fix. Maybe. Like, these people's entire existence is being nihilistically understood to just be success within a system that is a scam. And so the entire concept of improving a system that is corrupt is completely lost. Because nobody's doing that. And if you're only playing the game for the sake of efficacy, which becomes the poison pill that you only take one more of, just one more, okay? Listen, as a YouTuber, I'm very familiar with the idea of unhealthy habits to just get past that next thing. At a certain point, your liver stops functioning. At a certain point, stuff breaks down, and your problems now have diversified. Anyways, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks for joining me. If you appreciate what I do, or want to help support the channel and get early access to upcoming video essays, there should be a couple when I get back home in the next few days.